Hey there, Rafikis. Welcome to the 34 podcast where we learn together. Happy New Year. Hope you're doing good and hope your year is going on well. And today I have a guest, my husband, and we're going to talk about resolutions. And both of us have different perspective about it and how we are going about it. Um, for me, past years I've been writing my resolution down. Like I want to do this, I want to lose weight, I want to learn new language, I want maybe to go to school to learn something else. But then when the year come to an end, I go back to the drawing board and I'm so depressed. Maybe I've accomplished one thing, or maybe even I've accomplished nothing, and which make me depressed. And so this year I said, I'm doing something different. I'm not writing my resolution down. I'm just taking things at the year. If I accomplish anything, I'll do that. But then I'm not writing anything down to put me more pressure. And so with that, maybe at the end of the year, I'll tell you what I've achieved on that. So let's do this. But now I'll let my husband talk about what he thinks about it. So let's go.
Thank you, babe. So I have a perspective that goes in a little bit of a different direction. I've I've found mostly when hearing about how people talk about this subject that they often fall into two camps. One of those camps would be something maybe kind of close to where you are. The I don't really care. I don't want to do anything. I want to just kind of go with the flow, see how things play out. Then there's kind of another side that gets into, just go for it with all your gusto, just do everything imaginable, just go for it all and see what you achieve. That's a side which I think can be even harmful than the first side. The first side has the disadvantage of sometimes you get into a position where you don't really feel like you've accomplished as much, and you end up getting to a point a couple months down the road where you feel like, well, I may be okay, but I don't feel like anything has really changed, and I maybe have missed an opportunity to make some kind of meaningful change in my life. And when you get into this second camp, then you have people that start out with all these ambitious goals. I'm gonna lose 20 pounds by the time I get to spring break or something like that, and that can have its own problems because often those people fall into that trap that so many people come into of by the time you get to January 15th, which I think is about a couple days from now, you just jump on the National Quit Day bandwagon and just quit along with everybody else. So you have such a high bar you've set for yourself that when you don't achieve it, then you have more chance of feeling discouraged, and then some of those people, because of that discouragement, end up quitting entirely. The approach that I like the best is something that's more middle of the road, more in between these two, and that is just finding a goal that's smaller, something that you can actually start and accomplish pretty early on, and then later you build on it. So, one example, I can use my experience from meditation a little bit to illustrate this. I had a period a long time ago when I decided to start doing meditation. It sounded like a kind of good thing. And I'll also note with this that I don't really feel like these types of goals all, just have to be New Year's resolutions. I mean, goals are great things to do any time of the year when you think you need to do them, especially if you don't feel like you want to wait a whole year before making a change in your life. So that's a good thing to keep in mind too. But since we're talking about New Year's resolutions, let's say, you decide to start something like that around January. You do something maybe similar to what I do. You get into 5 minutes a day of meditating. Try to do that consistently, and then after a while, you'll often succeed with that, but you may still get to a point where you feel like, okay, this is still a little too much, and then you kind of go downhill a bit, and just you might at some point forget it entirely. So part of the key to this actually working is, finding something that's simple enough to stick to, but then also keeping in mind that the process of these kind of goals often works like I've heard about in the Noom software that I've been using as part of my process to try to lose weight. They talk about something called slips and surges, and that means that you'll have points in life where you just go up, you feel like you're accomplishing your goals, and then sometimes you'll go down. You'll have moments where you backslide, but then you have to just keep that in mind as how the process is supposed to go. So, instead of permanently being down, then you can eventually pick yourself back up and get back up again. And then maybe when you get to a time where things feel more consistent, not as much going up and down, then you can go up. Uh, One thing that triggered me moving from 5 minutes a day to 10 minutes a day was when I started experiencing a lot of anxiety and insomnia, which is, I know with meditation specifically, that's what it's supposed to help with. At least it's one of the most common things that it's used to help with. It can help with some other things too. That's certainly the most popular usage of it, and the times that people feel like they want to turn to it. But once you get 5 minutes, you can go up to 10 minutes like I did. And then, as I was talking with a therapist, she recommended 30 minutes a day. So I tried that. And at this point, I've been successful the majority of days, just getting in 30 minutes. I do it by kind of a 15-minute session at night and 15 minutes in the morning. So I split it up a little bit. And that's been able to work for me. I think that everyone is going to have their own speed. I mean, I think my journey still was multiple years before I felt like I was at this point where, yeah, I could meditate, 30 minutes a day and wouldn't really ever lose my consistency with it. And you have to keep in mind things like the rules of making an actual habit. I mean, it's going to take at least a couple weeks for most habits to really solidify themselves. So you will get to a point where they seem like they're automatic. I mean, I can remember how it is with, brushing your teeth. I mean, it probably as a kid, you just weren't consistent at all. But now it's, there's still some times when I forget, but it's usually just an automatic thing now. And I mean, changing your environment can always affect things like that. But I generally, for the most part, always brush my teeth, every single night and every single morning. I do it twice a day, like most people should. And I've, I've seen this kind of slips and surges thing, certainly with weight loss, specifically with what Noom was talking about. I mean, I had periods, years ago. I mean, I've been probably doing this for a decade or more, and I had a period where I probably was maybe 30 pounds lighter than I am now, and it did it did start to eventually come back as certain routines changed, and I've had to figure out recently how to adjust those to allow myself to continue. And I can say now that I've at least had, if you look over a couple months period, I've been actually trending downwards. So that's been very positive. Even if you sometimes feel like it's not as much as you'd like to see. I mean, any progress in the right direction that's consistent is still good. That should still be what you're going for with anything like this. And yeah, I know that that they're still tricky. This won't this won't make everything just completely easy. It's you're still going to have to battle with what you need to do in your routines to make everything work. And this, you can in some ways apply this to goals that might be more abstract. I mean, I've heard of things, I think in a sermon today, someone, I mean, they made a joke, I think, about this, where somebody had was looking for their resolutions to be posted on a board and going, where is that, where is that resolution, where the heck is it? And they look at their resolution, and the principal, I think this was a teacher, so the principal finds it and was shocked to find it means, oh, I will not get bothered by the little things. Okay. So and sometimes resolutions that are like that can be very difficult, because you're trying to break a very ingrained habit that you probably have, which sometimes they're hard to measure in a very numeric way, but eventually you'll find a way to maybe do something like you try to think of something specific that you can maybe measure a little bit. I mean, it kind of comes back to that idea of things being a SMART goal, SMART, the acronym. I'm sure you can look it up somewhere. I'm not going to explain that whole thing, but mostly the idea there is to get something that you can measure pretty specifically, but also something that's kind of realistic and not too big. And so with something like that, I guess the best the best suggestion might be to just think of something like maybe a few times a week, if I can stop myself when I start to get in that pattern of endless worry or endless endless concern. I mean, I know about getting anxious. I mean, I'm someone who doesn't always show it externally, but sometimes I would feel it like really, really strongly. And so, yeah, for those measurable things, rule of thumb, I typically use 5 to 10 minutes a day. Just see if you can at least do something like that. I mean, maybe it's even less, maybe it's even 1 to 2 minutes a day. I mean, it doesn't really matter how small you go, as long as it's something that you can achieve and that you can then build on. I even noticed this in Noom. I mean, they'll sometimes, when you're setting a goal of how much of their lessons you read, I mean, it shocked me that it was even an option to only read like 1 to 2 minutes, of lessons a day. I mean, they sound so easy when you say them, but just we're such creatures of habit that when we're not used to doing something, then forming a new habit can be difficult.
Right.
So build it up one at a time. Don't be incredibly hard on yourself, but know that change is always good, and small changes over time will bear fruit as you go through later in life. I mean, I look at my own life and realize, well, I've lived through a lot already, but I'm only close to 40. I've still got more than half of my life ahead of me. So I've got plenty of time to change in some ways, and make some small efforts, one by one, to just make sure that change sticks.
Right.
So I think that's was all I wanted to say. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Bubu. That was really good, and hope people will follow that. And if you've already written your resolutions, hope you follow them and hope you achieve them. And for me, I'll just go with the flow, as I said. And if I achieve anything, I'll let you know when the year ends. So thank you guys so much for always follow and for the support you always show us. Thank you so much. And let us know what you think about what we've talked about. And as we say, kesho pia ni siku. Adios.
Adios.